Greetings, I'm Dr. Akhu, the Inner Peace Doctor. Welcome to today's Mindshift meditation. Peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to cope with it. If you like these Mindshift meditations, don't forget to subscribe, press the bell for notifications, comment below, and like the video. I know, as the Inner Peace Doctor, you think that I don't get into conflict. But peace is not about not getting into conflict. Peace is about knowing how to have disagreements and stay in peace or return to peace. I get into conflicts all the time. Conflicts with my husband, conflicts with my friends, conflicts with my children. But when I am in a disagreement with someone, I remember that it's about the disagreement. It's about the issue. It's not about the person. The person is usually somebody I love. And if not, even if the person's a stranger, that person is an aspect of God, right? Just like I am. So my goal is to be heard and understood. And my goal is to hear and understand the other person. It's not to bring out what I call the big guns, the things that I know are most hurtful. And the people we're closest to, we really know what can hurt them, just like they know what can hurt us. So it's important to put away the big guns and to really seek to understand, as well as to strive in the best ways you can to communicate in the ways they can understand. And I find that although there'll still be conflict, the conflict is a lot shorter. And very often it can lead to better understanding. That happened with one of my friends recently. We were going to get together to have meetings to focus on some issues that I thought was important to all of us. But as it turns out, my friend was showing up for me. And because we talked it through, we better understood what each of our motivation was. And when we realized that the motivation wasn't a match, we were able to talk through it, work through it, and move past it. So I encourage you to pay attention to what happens when you're in conflict. Do you get defensive and start bringing out the big guns to hurt somebody else, to shut them down? Or do you stop to try to listen and better understand? Do you try to communicate in different words with your feelings to help them better understand where you're coming from? One way to do that, and it's not easy, and I am not saying that it's easy. It is not easy. It's taken me years of practice to hold on to peace while I'm in conflict. But number one, I remember that I am a product of God, and so is whoever else I'm in conflict with. Two, I breathe. I take lots and lots and lots of deep breaths to help my body and mind stay in alignment and find calm, which is not always easy, but usually very effective. Sometimes it requires walking away, taking a step back, and promising to return to the communication when you've calmed down. But knowing that you can do that and asking to have a break is really important, because the things we say, we can't take them back. So we want to really be mindful of what we're communicating when we're communicating to somebody else. And when we're really upset, when we're angry or afraid, we are very often not very aware of what we're saying, how we're communicating, and we're more likely to bring out the big guns unintentionally and really hurt somebody, which prevents us from doing the work of repair. So take some deep breaths, take a break if you need to, and then seek first to understand where that person's coming from. Try to help them understand where you're coming from. And then once you both have understanding, very often moving to agreement's a lot easier. Sometimes you're agreeing to disagree. I don't agree with all my friends about everything. Friends and I have different views on vaccinations, on wearing masks, on the state of COVID, on a lot of things. I have one friend actually who disagrees with me about the news. You know that I don't watch network news. I prefer the state of, which I don't consider it a state of ignorance. I do know that Spirit brings to me any information I need to have, but I find that watching news is disturbing to my soul. And it makes it harder for me to hold on to my peace, and it makes it harder for me to share that peace with other people. So I don't watch network news. I take the New York Times, read the summary every day to stay in the know enough. And I will listen to NPR, but I never watch network news. I have one friend who often says to me, you need to know these things. What if your clients are talking about this and you don't know about the issue? That's happened. And I find that clients educate me, or the real issue is not the news. It's not, what happens. It's about how the client experiences it. And so they have to educate me on that anyway. No matter what's happening in the actual news, it's really what's important is how the client's experiencing it. And that's what I need to be there for. We disagree, and that's okay. I hear and understand what she says. I think she hears and understands my point of view. And since this is not something that is really an issue that is related to our relationship at all, we have agreed to disagree on this one, and we continue our friendship. We talk about it a little bit whenever it comes up, and we keep moving. So it is possible to agree to disagree. It is possible to have conflict and figure out how to stay in a state of peace, work through things with people, and move forward. When countries are able to do that, when they're able to negotiate, come to the table, and understand where others are coming from, then things go so much better. When they assume that the other is trying to hurt them, then they go into protective mode, and then we have war. So I strongly encourage you to choose peace over war, which doesn't mean that there isn't conflict. It just means that you have the tools to find ways to better understand things so that you can move from conflict to growth, right? Growth and development. And that often makes relationships stronger. I know every time I have moved from conflict to understanding, things have gotten stronger in my relationships. I feel like we have grown in the experience. So I hope that you can find ways to do the same. And I'd love to hear from you more about how you have used peace as a tool in times of conflict. If you like these Mindshift meditations, don't forget to subscribe, press the bell for notifications, comment below, and like the video. Affirmation: I choose to work through conflict to return to inner peace.